talking about nearshoring, a lot of recent headlines that I've been seeing are claiming Mexico is going to be the new China.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
The thing is, realistically, the way I see it, it's not just going to be Mexico that's the new China, but we'll probably have a bunch of new Chinas.
Okay.
All close to us, Brazil, even, you can even call Taiwan, might also be a new China we talked about the South China Sea, they're going to be a huge producer of chips, and that's another super crucial piece of equipment that you're not going to be getting from China, they just don't have the technology.
Tesla they built a plant in Monterrey, Mexico, and just a manufacturing plant.
One of the gigafactories?
Yeah, just out of nowhere, and I read the headline and I was like, that's so random. It's very random because most of it was done within, close to us, in the country, and then just out of nowhere, Mexico.
And I mean, the issues with China ultimately started stemming in 2018 with, like a very subtle trade war. We started imposing tariffs. There was tension building. But it comes down to a bunch of other things. It takes a really long time for ships to get here. American ports are poorly managed, so when they get here, it takes a long time for things to process. It's not as an amazing of an option as it was before.
Yeah, and another big tipping point was, of course, the pandemic. That was a huge wake-up call for a lot of people. Like you said, with the shipping times, things got a lot more delayed. And in America, everything is all about how quick can you get here, how efficient can we make these trade routes. And a lot of times, even after NAFTA, they had a new agreement, right? Do you remember the name? Between the U.S. and Mexico? But regardless, that removes a lot. That definitely makes it a lot cheaper to ship between U.S. and Mexico. Obviously, Mexico is closer than China.
U.S., Mexico, Canada agreement.
Yeah, so things get here a lot faster. And Mexico doesn't face a lot of the other problems in China, like the IP theft issues, where people are concerned if they bring their technology over there, are there just going to be a bunch of new Chinese companies using the same tech and start creating spin-offs?
And if you think about it, Mexico is more dependent on America than China's dependent than China would be dependent on America. Because China's just like, they're a bit more developed in terms of having their own economy, they have a greater GDP, greater population. America really has the upper hand in negotiations with Mexico.
But when I think about nearshoring, there's a lot of advantages, but there are disadvantages. There's a less concentrated population of skilled workers in Mexico. It's very difficult to find the same kind of talent that you have in China or Taiwan or places that genuinely put a very large emphasis on that type of education. So if we want to genuinely build a long-term nearshoring exportation agreement, then we would have to invest also in the education of the people there, which would be another expenditure, but it would probably be well worth. Yeah.
And I think slowly it'll come. And even Mexico doesn't have to be, a ground-up manufacturing. They could, just a ground-up plant. They could be responsible for only like the last bit of integration. Assembly.
Yeah, of course it's going to take a pretty long time. The U.S. and China, clearly they don't really like each other. I think there was even a quote in our research where it was like they're like an unhappy married couple, but neither side wants to divorce because then you have to split all the assets. It's pretty devastating for both
What are the kids
parties.
gonna do?
Exactly. So, a lot of it comes down to that. But yeah, slowly but surely, I think we'll start to see more nearshoring or even friendshoring, like you mentioned. We're a lot more friendly with Mexico. And yeah, Deloitte estimates we're going to reshore 350,000 jobs in 2022. That was their estimate. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes from there.
It's mainly automobile companies though, investing in Mexico. I know Volkswagen has a huge plant in Mexico, and when we say Volkswagen, that's Audi and everything else that comes with it. I know Audi assembles their Q5s in Mexico. They have parts made from Germany and Canada.
Remember, that finishing touch, that assembly is done there.
I know. And then the thing is, when we talk about Mexico, we kind of can't ignore the elephant in the room, which is the migrant crisis. But here's my optimistic view. I think that as we improve the economic situation there, because what are people running from? Poor government, lack of opportunity. As investment flows into Mexico, what if that's the solution to the migrant crisis? We're sort of thinking about mitigating the effects of the crisis, which is what do we do at the border? How do we set up restrictions? They started putting up dams to restrict people from getting in. But what if we really target the root of the cause? The issues with government in Mexico lack of jobs. We bring the factories in there, and you can revitalize the whole economy.
Yeah.
Right, that's a great point. It even circles back to our last episode with, we were talking about disinvested communities filled with crime, the lack of investment into there. This, again, we need to address the root cause, like you mentioned. Crime is rampant there, the cartel. So once you start building up infrastructure there, creating jobs, creating opportunities, communities will start to get safer. When communities start to get safer, businesses are more enticed to construct factories there and whatever else, and things would go from there.
We just solved the migrant crisis.
That's it.
Like
There
that.
we
Like that in a minute.
Of course, it's a super nuanced issue, and it'll be a while before we see super noticeable change.
You need Mexico's government to be on board, because a lot of the things that we see as bad, it comes down to a bunch of corrupted officials, like it always does. And even if to us we think that it's more beneficial, to just to revitalize the area, to a lot of people it's not more beneficial. With like you said, the cartels, a lot of people are making money off this stuff.
Yeah. And what kind of pushback would that have? What kind of revolution would that have? Could it be similar to like a Cuba situation, right?
Good point. Yeah, it's always funny, like when, from America's perspective, a lot of times we're trying to just help out the country, and
We think we're the good guys.
yeah, exactly. We think we're the good guys, but it's all about perspective, right? Like from their opinion, here's like all of these foreign people coming in and trying to save us, help us out, whereas really it's probably destabilizing a lot of areas as well.